My name is Sherran, and this is a follow-up video to a hormone level check that I had done using a service called MediChecks. Now, if you watch any of my videos, you'll know that for a while, I suspected that I might have low testosterone. Well, I was pretty shocked to discover that not only was my testosterone level low, but it was actually outside a normal, healthy range. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what happened next, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that I did to actually double my testosterone levels naturally within a relatively short amount of time. So first things first, quite a few people questioned the validity of the MediChecks results. So of course, I followed up with my GP. Now my biggest issue at the time was fatigue, which can have quite a few causes. So to try and diagnose the issue, they ran quite a few tests for me. Well, I've got the results, and the good news is that almost everything came back normal and within a healthy range. However, the testosterone was low. In fact, even lower than the original test result at 5 nanomoles per litre compared to the original result of 6.08. Now, a normal healthy range should be somewhere between 7 and 31. Now, interestingly, my cholesterol came back high too. Now, initially I just dismiss this because I have a pretty healthy lifestyle. However, there are studies that show possible links between high cholesterol and low testosterone. Cholesterol is used to make sex hormones in the body like testosterone, but I wasn't fully convinced that this wasn't just an anomalous result. So following up with my GP again, they wanted to perform a fasted cholesterol test, and they also wanted me to retake my testosterone test because it wasn't properly time-stamped when I originally provided the sample. Now, testosterone levels are naturally highest around 9 AM in the morning, and despite that being the time that I actually took the test, because it wasn't time-stamped, I had to take it again. So as you can probably tell, I was getting a little bit frustrated with the lack of progress and the amount of time between tests. However, I had already started doing my own research to try and find out what I can do to start naturally increasing my testosterone levels. Initially, I felt like any changes I made would be extremely limited because most of the recommendations I was given, I was already kind of doing. I already had a healthy lifestyle, I ate well, I train, I don't drink, I don't smoke. However, as I started doing more and more research, I started realizing that there was more and more possible answers. So firstly, I wasn't alone. There were lots of younger, healthier men than me being diagnosed with low testosterone every day as a result of our modern lifestyles and lots of external factors. So I began compiling a list of actionable changes that I could start implementing straight away into my lifestyle, and I'll share these with you very shortly in this video. So when I went back to the GP to get my next set of blood test results, my testosterone levels had already improved in just a couple of weeks. My levels were up from 5 nanomoles per litre to 10 nanomoles per litre, and were now within a normal, healthy range, albeit still at the lower end of the scale. So although I still wasn't feeling great, it was actually really encouraging to see that the changes I'd made had already had an impact, and continued lifestyle changes would hopefully improve this even further. So I've now been referred to an endocrinologist, which is a doctor that specializes within the endocrine system, which controls all of your hormones. Now, they will certainly want to run their own tests as well, but my goal is to try and get my levels back into a normal, healthy range by the time I actually get to see them. I'm hoping when I speak to them as well, they'll be able to give me even more lifestyle changes that I can make to improve my levels and hopefully validate the research that I've already done. So now the bit that you're probably most interested in, which is what did I actually do? Well, I made a lot of changes, and unfortunately I made all the changes at the same time. So individually, I don't know which have actually been the most effective. However, I have summarized them into 9 different areas. So the first area I looked at was around nutrition. Now, although my diet is pretty healthy by most people's standards, I still managed to identify a few opportunities, particularly around vitamins and micronutrients. Additionally, I found that a lot of foods contain toxins, pesticides, and even molds that can be really estrogenic and quite powerful endocrine disruptors. The next area I looked at was my gut health. Now, the microbiome within your body can play a really big role towards your overall health. So I took a really strong 6-day course of probiotics to really help get a much better ratio of healthy bacteria within my gut. The third area I looked at was sunlight exposure. Now, within the UK, a lot of people are actually vitamin D deficient, and this is largely due to our busy modern lifestyles, which largely involve being indoors. Now, although you can get vitamin D from certain foods, the best source is the sun. So the recent heat wave we've been experiencing in the UK certainly helped me with that. The fourth area that I looked at was actually sleep, and not just the quantity of sleep that I was getting, but the quality of the sleep as well. So I started using a product again called Dream, which really helps promote a really nice deep sleep, which makes you feel much more rested in the morning. Now the fifth area is where things get a little bit more interesting, and I started looking at estrogen control. Now I was definitely showing signs of estrogen imbalance or estrogen dominance, particularly looking at the quality of my skin and the places in which I had started to store fat on my body. Now this is a huge area, and I found out I was potentially exposing myself to a lot of xenoestrogens throughout the day, from the endless plastic bottles that I was drinking water out of, to the pesticides and estrogen within the water supply, and even the soaps and body washes that I was using. The list just goes on and on. The sixth area was how I could actually detox my body and get rid of these toxins. Now a lot of them are stored in the subcutaneous fat, which can actually be released with sweat. So taking a hot sauna can be a really good way of actually getting rid of these, but the best strategy is really just to avoid them in the first place. The seventh area was using supplements. Now generally speaking, I would say that testosterone boosters aren't really very effective, particularly if your testosterone levels are within a normal healthy range. However, they can be quite effective if you have low testosterone. I also added in some additional vitamins and micronutrients to my diet as well. The penultimate change I made was actually my training. Now I'm a big fan of high intensity, high volume training with minimal rest and supersets with antagonist muscles. However, I adapted my training to make sure that the total volume was much lower and that my workouts weren't quite as lengthy. Finally, I started using tactics to avoid blue light. Now this is something I am constantly exposed to all day because I sit in front of two large monitors and I use my mobile phone all the time. Now the blue light from these devices is known to be pretty bad for your eye health, but it can also really disturb your sleep patterns and your circadian rhythm, particularly if you use them just before you go to bed. So that's a brief overview of all the changes that I made, and they seem to have had a very positive impact on my testosterone levels so far. Now my appointment with my endocrinologist is at the start of August, so it'll be really interesting to see what I can get my levels up to by the time of that next appointment. Now I appreciate I've only really touched upon the changes that I've made to my lifestyle. I've not really shared the details of what I did at this stage, mainly because this would make this video incredibly long. But if it's something that you're interested in, let me know and I'll happily share the specifics of exactly what I did. So I hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I'm going to be documenting the journey around my testosterone levels over the next few months, so I'm really hoping to create some really useful content for anybody that's in the same or similar position as I am. So make sure you subscribe and don't miss out on the great content I have coming up, and I'll see you in the next video.